Just 3 days after WWD ended, Soviet cipher clerk Igor Guzenko defected, leaking classified documents to Canada. The Guzenko affair is considered the spark that ignited the Cold War. Soviet T-34-85 tanks lining up before the Battle of Berlin, 1945. White cafe goers cruelly cover a black girl and two of her supporters with flour and drinks for daring to sit at the counter in defiance of old racist traditions, 1963. The Ku Klux Klan at a fair in Colorado, 1926. Freddie Overstegen, a Dutch girl and killer of dozens of Nazis, along with her friend and sister as part of the resistance, lured men into the woods where they got a bullet in the head. The photo shows Jean Courtney, the Sausage Queen, USA, 1955. A herd of elephants before mass extermination truly meant a herd. Photo taken in 1976 in Africa. A procedure for removing freckles using dry ice, 1930s. Beauty treatments of the past were often painful and unsafe. Martin Luther King Jr. and his son removing a burned cross from their yard, 1960. A hat for listening to the radio, 1949. Employees of Fred Alger Management, photographed around 2001 on the 93rd floor of One World Trade Center, lost 35 staff in the 9/11 attacks. Aftermath of the tsunami in Severokurilsk, 1952. An image symbolizing racial segregation faced by Africans. Radium mask for treating facial cancer, 1920. This amazing photo shows an electric taxi car driving through the streets of New York in 1898, 110 years before Elon Musk's Tesla. One of the first home vacuum cleaners, Siemens Elmo, 1906. Nearly 80% of Soviet men born in 1923 died during World War II. 1990s mugshot of corrupt LAPD officer Rafael Perez linked to the Bloods, drug theft, shootings, and the murder of the notorious B.I.G. inspired Denzel Washington's Training Day character. Construction of the Berlin Wall, one of the Cold War's most infamous symbols, 1961. On April 30th, 1956, 78-year-old U.S. Vice President Alben Barkley died in the Senate immediately after saying, "I would rather be a servant in the house of the Lord than sit among the mighty." UK, 1943. A proud member of the Women's Corps shows off her new tattoo, a symbol of rebellion and style. Mass hysteria in England during World War II. The belief that Germans would use chemical weapons during bombings. The government distributed over 38 million gas masks to civilians. The forced relocation of Native American tribes in the late 19th century, a tragic consequence of U.S. government policy. A man is walking to deliver a package, unaware of the magnitude of the tragedy. New York, September 11, 2001. Two childhood friends meet during a strike. One is a striker, the other is a police officer. France, 1972. John Pemberton created Coca-Cola to wean himself off morphine. While serving in the military, Dr. Pemberton received a chest wound. To ease the pain, he took morphine. The wound healed, but his addiction to the opioid drug remained. Pemberton decided to develop a recipe for a drink based on coca leaves. Even after his death, Josef Mengele, known for his cruel experiments on Auschwitz prisoners, continued to participate in science. His skull was used for educational purposes for forensic students. In 1935, 6-month-old Hesse Taft was chosen as the ideal Aryan baby by the Nazi magazine Sohn ins Haus. The only problem was she was Jewish. The first case of disqualification of an athlete for doping occurred in 1968. That year, alcohol was found in the blood of pentathlete Hans-Gunnar Lilienthal. The son of a poor farmer graduated from university. His father worked in the fields for 4 years to pay for his son's education. An intoxicated woman is detained on the street while the policeman wears a rather mysterious smile. Adolf Hitler visits the trenches where he served during World War I as part of the Bavarian 16th Reserve Regiment near Fonels. The Hitler Regiment held this line for 18 months. Joe Matani, a maniac who dismembered bodies, mixed human flesh with animal meat, and made burger patties to serve to customers in his cafe. Santa Claus spotted during the Croatian War of Independence, 1991. Exhibition by Kazimir Malevich, 1915. Berlin residents search for food in the ruins, 1945. Panic swept the crowd during Liverpool's match against Nottingham in 1989. 96 people died and 766 were injured. To this day, it remains the worst disaster in football history. The most dangerous notebook in the world. It belonged to Marie Curie and it emits radiation, 1899. Suffering from hunger, a woman lies on the pavement in the Warsaw Ghetto. The picture was taken by a German soldier in 1941. Public toilet in Paris, France, 1875. Just a normal bus ride in Tirana, Albania, 1992. Crime reporter questions a gang member during his arrest, Russia, 1991. A celebration marking the official repeal of Prohibition, USA, 1933. The kidnapped South Korean actress Choi Yoon-hee is greeted by her new abductor, Kim Jong-il, North Korea, 1978. Cigarettes purchased from a hospital bed in the 1950s. A shell carrier, Nigerian Civil War, 1968. Army priest in a camouflage cassock, Vietnam, 1968. Refugees flee from North Korea to the south on a train as communist troops advance from the north, 1950. In Puritan England in the 19th century, everything erotic was avoided. Even the legs of pianos were covered with cloths to prevent indecent thoughts. The feeling when the Statue of Liberty stands in your backyard, USA, 1930. A vending machine for fishing worms, USA, 1965. The Eternal Smile, the mummy of Hatshepsut, the most powerful female pharaoh in the history of Egypt. Rare photo of U.S. President Woodrow Wilson in which his famously bad teeth can be seen, 1910s. Soviet Air Force bombing of Helsinki, Finland, 1939, Winter War. Masonic Lodge meeting, USA, Arizona, 1897. A meeting of the American organization Friends of New Germany, New York, 1934. Matador Alvaro Munero, in the middle of a fight, suddenly sat down at the edge of the arena in remorse. Later, Alvaro confessed, "Suddenly I saw not horns but the eyes of the bull. He just stood there looking, not trying to attack. In his eyes, full of innocence, I saw a plea for help. Reading this, I felt like the worst creature on earth and stopped the fight." Police confronting Mike Tyson after he bit off part of Evander Holyfield's ear, 1996. In 2016, U.S. student Otto Warmbier was sentenced to 15 years in North Korea for stealing a poster. Returned to the U.S. a year later in a coma with severe brain damage, He died days later. Shockingly, North Korea demanded a $2 million bill for his medical care. If you steal a loaf of bread, you go to jail. The Great Depression, USA, early 1930s. Afghanistan in 1973 and 2016. The last veterans and witnesses of the 1812 war between the Russians and Napoleon Bonaparte at the centennial celebration of the Battle of Borodino, Russian Empire, 1912. Tutankhamun's parents were brother and sister, and this is what he looked like according to scientists' reconstruction. The first image of people in a photograph happened by accident, taken in 1838. World Bank President Paul Wolfowitz takes off his shoes before entering a mosque during a visit to Turkey, 2007. Beauty pageant in Cliftonville, 1936. To ensure jury objectivity, the contestants' faces were covered. British and German soldiers during the Christmas Truce, WWI, 1914. A young Russian girl finally tastes freedom after surviving the horrors of Auschwitz, 1945. This haunting image serves as a powerful reminder of the millions stripped of their identity, yet who managed to survive the impossible. Bergen-Belsen SS women camp guards are paraded for work in clearing the dead. World War II. Spruce trees hung over a road to camouflage it from the air. Finland, 10 kilometers from the Soviet border, 1941. Alice Ulpian, Beauty Queen, France, 1921. One of the 4 preserved human nervous systems, the extraction took over 1,000 hours. The floating church of St. Nicholas the Wonder Worker, the only ship in the Russian Empire with a fully functional Orthodox church on board, 1910s. The real Peaky Blinders and the actors who played them. Finnish soldiers sent a Russian prisoner to persuade his commander, who barricaded himself in a dugout, to surrender, 1941. Training for the annual pancake race. 15th century underwear found during castle renovations in Langberg, Austria, a sensational discovery in medieval fashion history. Doctors give artificial respiration to a drowning victim while a girl in a swimsuit poses for the camera. New York, 1940. Teaching Papuans how to use condoms. Papua, Indonesia, 1960s. A Turk washes his feet for his final prayer as Bulgarian soldiers prepare the gallows for him, 1913. Thousands of Union and Confederate Civil War veterans gathered to honor the memory of the fallen, 1913. The famous photograph, "Thank you, Comrade Stalin, for our happy childhood." In reality, the regime executed her father and her mother died in prison. In 1940, 10 teenagers aged 14 to 17 were arrested for writing to Stalin condemning the unacceptability of sending grain to Germany while Soviet people are starving. They were sentenced to 10 years in prison. California hunter Seth Kinman sits in a chair made of a grizzly bear that he gifted to President Lincoln. When Stalin died, the Ukrainian diaspora restaurant in Washington served free borscht, March 9, 1953. The winner of the Miss Nairobi Beauty Contest, Kenya, 1966. Carefree Old Age, Slovakia, 1966. German Prisoners of War, 1945. A little boy gives an older boy a flower after arriving at Auschwitz, 1944. All the people in the photograph were executed by the Germans that same day. East German officers are afraid to shake hands with a West Berlin resident on the day the Berlin Wall fell, November 10, 1989. Liquidators prepare to clear the reactor roof. Many of them would soon die from radiation sickness caused by exposure during the Chernobyl nuclear power plant disaster, 1986. In 1969, a small group of Native Americans occupied the former prison of Alcatraz in protest against human rights violations in the U.S., holding the land they considered Native American for 3 years. The indigenous peoples demanded honesty and respect from the American government for their tribes. Samurai in front of the Sphinx, Egypt, 1864. Alcohol being prepared for destruction during Prohibition in the USA, 1924. Kiyoshi Ogawa, a kamikaze pilot who attacked the American aircraft carrier Bunker Hill. Lieutenant William Spreckley of the British Armed Forces is hospitalized in January 1917 with a shrapnel head wound and leaves Sir Harold Gillis's clinic in October 1920 with a significantly corrected appearance. A Soldier's Return Home, Vienna, Austria, 1946. Violet Jessup worked on the liners Olympic, Titanic, and Britannic, all of which were shipwrecked, but she remained unharmed. People trying to board a plane during the evacuation of American troops, South Vietnam, 1975. A two-headed dog created by Russian scientist Vladimir Demikhov in 1954 through the transplantation of one dog's head onto another. The dog lived for 1 month. Sparked a reaction. Whether good or bad, I'd love to read your comments below. Get ready for the next installment very soon. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss out. Catch you later.